Hello, welcome to Biology, the science study of life. Notice the survivorship curves from male and female buildings ground squirrels. The logothermic scale on the x-axis makes changes in number of survivors visible across the entire range 2 to 1,000 individuals on the graph. Number alive at the start of each year, plotting these numbers versus age of for female and male buildings ground squirrels yield. The relatively straight lines of the plots indicate relatively constant rates of death. However, males have a lower survival rate overall than females. This figure represents just one of many patterns of survivorship exhibited by natural populations, though diverse survivorship curves can be classified into three general types. A types, one curve is flat at the start, reflecting low death rates during early and middle life, then drops steeply as death rates increase among older age groups. Humans and many other large mammals that produce few offspring but provide them with good care often exhibit this kind of curve. In contrast, a type second, or as shown here, curve drops sharply at the start, reflecting very high death rates for the young, but then flattens out as death rates decline for those few individuals that have survived to a certain critical age. This type of curve is usually associated with organisms that produce very large numbers of offspring but provide little or no care, such as long-lived plants, many fishes, and marine invertebrates. And oyster, for example, may release millions of eggs, but most offspring die as larvae from predation or other causes. Those few that survive long enough to attach to a suitable substrate and begin growing a hard shell will probably survive for a relatively long time. Type 2 curves are intermediate with a constant death over the organism's lifespan. This kind of survivorship occurs in buildings, ground squirrels, and some other rodents, various invertebrates, some lizards, and some annual plants. Many species fall somewhere between these basic types of survivorship, or show more complex patterns in births. For example, mortality is often high among the youngest individuals, as shown second, or this curve with brief periods of increased mortality during molts, followed by periods of lower mortality when the exoskeleton is hard. In populations without immigration or immigration, survival or survivorship is one of the two key factors determining changes in population size. In such populations, in all the other key factors determining population trends to reproductive traits. Reproductive rates. Demographers who study sexually reproducing species generally ignore males and concentrate on females in a population because only females produce offspring. Demographers view populations in terms of females, giving rise to new females. Males are important only as distributors of genes. The simplest way to describe the reproductive patterns of a population is to ask how reproductive output varies with the ages of females. A reproductive table or fertility schedule is an age-specific summary of the reproductive rates in a population. The best way to construct a fertility schedule is to measure the reproductive output of a cohort from birth until death. For sexual species, the reproductive table tallest the number of female offspring producing by each age group, as this table shows that This table illustrates a reproductive table for building ground squirrels. Reproductive output of sexual species such as birds and mammals is the product of the propagation of females of a given age that are breeding, and the number of female offspring of those breeding females multiplying these numbers gives the average number of female offspring for each female is a given age class. The last column in this table for buildings ground squirrels which begin to reproduce at age 1 year. Reproductive output rises to a peak at 4 years and then falls off in older females. Reproductive tables vary greatly depending on the species. Squirrels have a little of 2 to 6 young once a year for less than a decade, whereas oak trees drop thousands of acorns each year for tens of or hundreds of years. Mussels and other invertebrates may release hundreds of thousands of eggs in a spawning cycle. Why a particular type of reproductive patterns evolves in a particular population is one of the many questions at the interface of population ecology and evolutionary biology. This is the subject of life history studies.